Amara lived in a small African village surrounded by green hills and tall palm trees. Her home was a simple mud hut near a calm river that sparkled under the moonlight. She lived with her mother, who sold vegetables in the market, and her younger brother, Keen, who loved to chase goats and play by the riverbank. Their lives were peaceful and quiet. The people of the village often said the river carried blessings because it never ran dry, even during the dry season. Every evening, after helping her mother cook or wash clothes, Amara liked to sit near the river. She would listen to the water flowing and watch the reflection of the stars on its surface. The river made her feel calm, as if it spoke to her in whispers. But lately, those whispers had followed her into her dreams. It began one night when the moon was full. Amara dreamt of a tall man dressed in white, standing by the river. His eyes shone like the moon, and his voice was deep yet gentle. "Amara," he said, stretching his hand toward her. "You belong to me." She woke up with a start, her heart racing. The air in her hut felt heavy, and she could still hear his voice echoing in her mind. She told herself it was just a dream, nothing more. But the next night, he came again. In the dream, he smiled at her and said, "Why do you fear me, Amara? I have always been with you." His words confused her. She didn't know this man. He looked human, but something about him felt otherworldly, like he was not from this world. When she told her mother about it in the morning, her mother frowned and said, "You must pray before sleeping. Strange dreams often come from restless spirits." Amara tried to pray every night, but the dreams didn't stop. Sometimes she saw herself walking into the river, her feet sinking into the water as if it was calling her home. She would wake up drenched in sweat, her chest pounding. The next day, she would avoid the river, but by evening, she always found herself drawn back to it, as if something invisible pulled her there. One afternoon, while washing clothes by the river, she heard someone whisper her name. "Amara!" She turned quickly, thinking it was her brother, but no one was there. The trees were still, and the only sound was the flow of water. She stood up, her heart beating fast. Then she saw something, a faint shape in the water, like a man's face smiling up at her before disappearing. From that day, Amara started feeling strange. When she fetched water, it felt lighter in her hands, as though the river helped her. When she sang, the water seemed to ripple in rhythm with her voice. The villagers noticed and began to whisper among themselves. "That girl has a gift," some said. "No," others whispered. "She has a spirit following her." One evening, the village elder, Papa Jaja, called her and said, "Amara, child, I have heard things. You must be careful with the river. It is old and powerful. It remembers every promise made to it." His words confused her even more. "What promise, Papa?" she asked. But the old man just shook his head. "Ask your mother," he said softly. That night, Amara asked her mother about it. Her mother hesitated, then sighed deeply. "When you were born, the river almost flooded our home. Your father was frightened. He went to the riverbank and made a vow that if the river spared us, he would offer something precious in return. But before he could fulfill it, he fell sick and died. I thought the river had forgotten." Amara felt cold all over. "So, the river remembers," she whispered. Her mother nodded slowly. "The spirits never forget a promise." That night, when Amara fell asleep, she dreamed again of the man by the river. This time, he was closer. "Your father made a promise," he said, his eyes glowing softly. "You are that promise." Amara tried to run, but her feet felt heavy, stuck in the wet sand. "Why me?" she cried. The man smiled gently. "Because you were chosen long before you were born." She woke up trembling, tears streaming down her face. 4 days, she could not sleep. The dreams left her feeling tired and weak. She stopped going near the river, but somehow, the sound of the flowing water always found her. It called to her even when she tried not to listen. One morning, as she fetched firewood in the forest, she met an old woman she had never seen before. The woman's hair was white as cotton, and her eyes were sharp and bright. "Child," the woman said softly, "you carry the mark of the river. It calls your name because your spirit is tied to it." Amara gasped. "Who are you?" she asked. The old woman smiled faintly. "Some call me Mama Lady. I help those who walk between two worlds." Amara followed her to a small hut by the edge of the forest. Inside, Mama Lady lit a clay lamp and gave her a bowl of herbs. "Drink this tonight," she said. "It will show you the truth of your bond." Amara thanked her and left, her mind filled with fear and curiosity. That night, after drinking the bitter herbs, Amara fell into a deep sleep. In her dream, she was standing in the river again. The water was calm and silver under the moonlight. The same man appeared before her. "Amara," he said, "you are not my prisoner. You are my link to the living world. Your kindness keeps me at peace. You must not fear me." Amara looked into his eyes and saw sadness there. "Who are you?" she asked. "I am the guardian of the river," he replied. "Your father's vow bound your spirit to mine, but it was not a curse. It was a bond of protection. As long as you honor the river, your village will never suffer." When she woke up the next morning, she felt different, calm and strong. She went to the river and knelt by the bank. "If you are truly my guardian, then protect my people as I will honor you," she whispered. The water shimmered softly, as if answering her. From that day on, Amara's fear disappeared. The dreams stopped, and peace returned to her heart. She became known in the village as the daughter of the river. People came to her for advice, and she always said, "The spirits walk among us, not to harm, but to remind us of promises kept and broken." Years later, as she sat by the same river watching children play, she smiled. She finally understood that not all spirits are enemies. Some are just protectors waiting to be remembered. Days passed, and strange things began to happen around Amara. The peaceful life she once knew slowly began to change. Whenever she walked near the river, she felt as though unseen eyes were watching her. The water seemed alive, rippling softly even when the air was still and calm. Sometimes she heard faint whispers in the breeze, calling her name, almost like a song. It frightened her, yet deep inside, a part of her felt connected to the sound. One morning, while she fetched water, she noticed something unusual. Her reflection in the river did not move the same way she did. When she blinked, the reflection smiled. She gasped and dropped her calabash into the water. It floated away slowly, and for a moment, she thought she saw a hand reach up from beneath the surface to push it back toward her. Her heart pounded as she stepped back. She wanted to run, but her feet felt heavy. The water shimmered, and she thought she heard the same calm voice from her dream saying, "Do not be afraid." That night, Amara could not sleep. She lay awake, staring at the roof of her hut. The sound of the river echoed in her mind. She turned to her mother and whispered, "Mama, do you ever feel the river calling you?" Her mother sighed and turned away. "Stop talking nonsense, Amara. You've been thinking too much." But Amara could not shake off the feeling that something deep and powerful was trying to reach her. The next day, she went to the market to sell yams. As she arranged her basket, two women nearby whispered to each other. "Have you heard about the river?" one said. "They say the spirits are angry." The other woman nodded. "Yes, a fisherman said he saw light in the water last night. The river glowed like fireflies dancing on the surface." Amara tried to ignore them, but her hands trembled slightly. That evening, the air felt different, heavier, warmer, like rain was coming, yet the sky was clear. Amara went down to the river again, unable to resist. As she stood by the edge, she noticed tiny bubbles rising to the surface. The water looked as though it was breathing. She whispered softly, "If you are truly there, tell me what you want." The water rippled, and she saw a faint shape, the outline of a man, the same one from her dreams. His eyes glowed faintly, and he reached out his hand. Amara stumbled backward, terrified. She turned and ran, her heart racing, not stopping until she reached her hut. When she burst through the door, her mother looked up in alarm. "What happened?" Amara tried to speak, but her lips trembled. Finally, she said, "Mama, he's real. The man from my dreams. I saw him in the water." Her mother froze. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then she whispered, "Amara, listen to me. Stay away from the river. Do you understand? Whatever you think you saw, forget it." But Amara could not forget. The image haunted her every time she closed her eyes. Over the next few days, she tried to avoid the river completely. She sent her brother, Keen, to fetch water instead. But even from a distance, she could hear the faint sound of rippling waves. At night, she began to dream again. The same man appeared, standing in the silver light of the moon. "Amara," he said softly, "why do you run from me?" She wanted to shout, to ask who he was, but no words came out. He looked sad, almost lonely. "You belong to me," he whispered, and then the dream faded. When Amara woke up, she found something strange on her bed, a small seashell, smooth and glowing faintly. She picked it up, and for a moment she felt calm. But when she showed it to her mother's face turned pale. "Where did you get this?" she demanded. "It was on my bed," Amara said quietly. Her mother took the shell and threw it into the fire. "That's not a gift. That's a sign," she said firmly. Later that day, Amara went to visit Papa Jaja, the village elder. She told him everything, the dreams, the reflection, the strange shell. Papa Jaja listened quietly, his old eyes thoughtful. Finally, he said, "Child, the river spirits are strong. Some are kind, some are not. Long ago, people made promises to them. If a promise was broken, they would seek the bloodline of the one who broke it. Maybe this is why the spirit comes to you." Amara's heart sank. "What can I do?" she asked. The old man sighed. "You must face it, not fear it. When the moon is full, go to the river and speak from your heart. But go with respect. Spirits listen to truth." That night, Amara could not stop thinking about his words. When the full moon came, she walked to the river with trembling hands. The water shimmered under the moonlight, bright and alive. She took a deep breath and said, "If you can hear me, tell me what you want. I am not your enemy." The water stirred, and slowly, the man rose from the river again. This time, he looked clearer, tall, graceful, and glowing faintly. His expression was calm, not threatening. "Amara," he said, "you are bound to me through a promise made before your birth. Your father asked the river for life, and I gave it. Now the bond lives in you." Amara felt tears in her eyes. "But I don't want this," she whispered. "I just want to live my life." The spirit smiled gently. "You already are. I do not wish to harm you. I protect you. When the villagers whisper that the river is restless, it is because they forget to honor it. You, Amara, are the bridge between us." For a moment, everything went silent. Then she said softly, "If I am the bridge, then let me bring peace between us." The spirit nodded. "Then come to the river when the sun rises. Bring a bowl of honey and a white cloth. I will show you how to free your fear." When morning came, Amara did as he said. She brought the honey and the cloth, placed them on a flat stone, and knelt. The water shimmered, and a soft wind blew across her face. She felt warmth spread through her chest, like sunlight entering her heart. The spirit's voice echoed faintly, "You are safe now. I will watch over you from the water." From that day forward, the river stopped rippling without reason. The strange whispers faded. Amara no longer felt afraid. When she walked by the river, the water remained calm and peaceful, reflecting the sky. The villagers soon noticed that the river seemed happier, and they began to call her the girl of the river. But sometimes, when the moon was full and the night was still, Amara thought she heard a voice in the wind, the same soft whisper saying her name, not with fear, but with gentle care. The end. One quiet morning, a stranger arrived in Amara's village. Her name was Mama Lady, an old herbalist known for her wisdom and deep knowledge of the unseen world. She wore colorful beads and carried a small basket filled with herbs and cowrie shells. When people saw her coming, they greeted her with respect. "Mama Lady, welcome," they said. "What brings you here?" The old woman simply smiled and replied, "The river called me." When Amara heard that, her heart skipped a beat. She ran to find Mama Lady and told her everything, about the dreams, the strange ripples in the water, and the man who appeared from the river. Mama Lady listened quietly, her eyes deep and serious. When Amara finished, the old woman sighed deeply. "Ah, child," she said softly, "your father once made a promise to the river spirit before you were born. But he never fulfilled it. Now the spirit comes for what is owed." Amara frowned in confusion. "What promise? My father never told me anything about that." Mama Lady looked toward the river, her voice calm but firm. "Before you were born, your mother was very sick. Your father went to the river and begged for her life. He promised to give a gift of peace every year, a bowl of honey and white flowers, to thank the river spirit. But after your mother recovered, he forgot his promise. The river does not forget, my child. Now the spirit wants peace, not revenge." Amara's eyes filled with tears. She had never known this part of her family's past. "What should I do, Mama?" she asked, her voice trembling. Mama Lady placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "Do not fear, my daughter. The spirit does not wish to harm you. It only wants the balance restored. You must offer what your father once promised." That evening, as the sun set and painted the sky orange and red, Mama Lady prepared a ritual. She asked Amara to bring honey, white flowers, a small calabash, and a piece of white cloth. Together, they walked toward the riverbank. The water shimmered softly in the fading light, almost as if it knew they were coming. Mama Lady began to sing an old song, a song of the river, full of gentle rhythm and ancient power. Amara knelt beside her, clutching the calabash filled with honey. "Speak to the river," Mama Lady said. "Tell it who you are and what you have come to do." Amara took a deep breath and looked at the calm water. "Great Spirit of the river," she said softly, "I am Amara, daughter of Keen and Neka. I did not know of the promise my father made, but I come to fulfill it now. Please, forgive his forgetfulness and bring peace." As her words faded, the water began to move slowly. The surface rippled, and a cool breeze brushed against her face. The old woman nodded approvingly. "Good," she whispered. "Now place the honey and the flowers on the water." Amara did as she was told. The honey spread across the surface like liquid gold, and the flowers floated gently downstream. For a moment, everything was still. No wind, no sound, only silence. Then the water shimmered with a faint blue glow. A figure slowly appeared, the same spirit she had seen before. He looked calm, almost peaceful now. "You have done well, child," the spirit said. "The debt is paid." His voice echoed softly, like a song carried by the breeze. Amara bowed her head, trembling but no longer afraid. "I only wanted peace," she whispered. The spirit smiled gently. "You have brought peace, not just for yourself, but for your family." Mama Lady watched carefully. "Spirit of the river," she said in a steady voice, "will you now release this girl?" The spirit nodded. "She was never mine to harm. But she carries my mark, the strength of the water, the heart of calm. Wherever she goes, she will be protected by the river's grace." The glow faded slowly, and the water returned to its normal stillness. Amara let out a long breath, realizing she had been holding it the entire time. She turned to Mama Lady, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Is it over?" she asked. The old woman smiled kindly. "The river remembers kindness as much as it remembers promises. You have restored what was broken." As they walked back to the village, the night air felt lighter. The sound of the river behind them was soft and soothing, not haunting anymore. Amara felt peace for the first time in many nights. But when they reached her hut, Mama Lady stopped and looked at her seriously. "Child," she said, "the river will always have a connection with you. Do not fear it, but never forget to honor it. The bond cannot be erased, only balanced." That night, Amara dreamed again. But this time, the spirit did not look sad or distant. He stood by the river, smiling softly at her. "Thank you," he said. "You have freed both of us." When she woke up, her heart felt calm. The heavy feeling she once carried was gone. In the days that followed, strange things began to change in the village. The river, which had once been feared, now seemed full of life. The fishermen caught plenty of fish again. The water flowed clear and bright, and people began to bathe and wash without fear. The villagers even held a small ceremony to thank the river for its kindness. Amara became known as the girl who made peace with the river. Children followed her when she went to fetch water, calling her Mama Miri, which meant Mother of the Water. Though she laughed and told them not to call her that, deep down, she felt a quiet pride. Mama Lady stayed in the village for a few more days. Before leaving, she gave Amara a necklace made of tiny shells and blue beads. "Wear this," she said, "so the river will always know who you are." Amara thanked her, feeling the soft beads against her skin. "Will the spirit ever come back?" she asked. Mama Lady smiled gently. "The spirit will always watch from the water, but now it comes as a friend, not a master." As weeks passed, Amara's life returned to normal. She sold fruits at the market, helped her mother, and laughed with her friends again. But every time she walked by the river, she felt peace instead of fear. The water sparkled under the sun, and sometimes she thought she heard a faint whisper, the same voice from before, not calling her but blessing her. One afternoon, she saw a group of children playing near the riverbank. They were splashing and laughing loudly. Suddenly, one of them slipped and fell into the water. Without thinking, Amara ran and jumped in. She reached the child just in time, pulling him safely to shore. The villagers rushed over, thanking her with tears in their eyes. As she stood there, dripping and breathless, she looked down at the river. The water around her feet glowed faintly for a moment, soft and golden, before fading away. She smiled, whispering, "Thank you." From that day on, Amara understood the truth. The river had not cursed her, it had chosen her. It had given her courage, peace, and the gift of understanding between the seen and unseen. Whenever she passed by, she would stop, bow her head, and say, "May the river always rest." The villagers learned from her to respect the water and to keep their promises, no matter how small. The river, once feared, became a symbol of peace and blessing. And whenever the moon shone brightly across the quiet river, Amara could feel the calm presence of the spirit, not haunting her any more, but watching over her like a guardian, gentle and kind. At sunrise, the village was quiet except for the sound of birds calling from the trees. The mist rolled softly over the river, covering the water like a white blanket. Amara woke up before everyone else. Her heart was beating fast, and her hands trembled slightly as she gathered the fruits and flowers that Mama Lady had asked her to bring. She could feel that this day was important, the day that would decide her peace. Mama Lady was already waiting for her near the old tree that stood close to the riverbank. The old woman looked calm, wearing a white wrapper and holding a small gourd filled with water and herbs. "You are ready," she said quietly. Amara nodded, clutching her basket tightly. The fruits were fresh, bananas, mangoes, and guavas, and the flowers were white, pure, and sweet-smelling. As they walked down the narrow path to the river, the early sun began to rise slowly, turning the sky orange and gold. The light reflected on the river, making it shimmer like glass. Amara's feet brushed through the soft grass, still wet with dew. She felt the air grow cooler as they got closer. When they reached the edge of the river, Mama Lady stopped and drew a small line in the sand with her finger. "From this moment," she said, "you must show respect to the spirit. Do not speak lies, do not show fear, and do not turn your back to the water until we are done." Amara swallowed hard and nodded. She placed her basket gently on the ground and knelt down. "Now," Mama Lady said, "tell the river who you are." Amara took a deep breath. "I am Amara," she said softly, her voice shaking a little. "Daughter of Keen and Neka. My father made a promise before I was born, but he did not keep it. Please forgive him. Forgive us." The old woman began to hum a slow, rhythmic song. Her voice was deep, carrying softly across the water. She dipped her fingers into the gourd and sprinkled the water around Amara. Then she poured a little into the river. "The river listens," Mama Lady said. "Now, offer your gift." Amara picked up the fruits one by one and placed them gently on a large leaf that floated near the edge of the water. She arranged the white flowers on top, then pushed the leaf slightly into the current. It drifted away slowly, gliding across the surface. For a few moments, everything was quiet. The wind stopped. Even the birds seemed to pause. Amara held her breath, waiting. Then, she felt it, a warm, gentle breeze brushing her face, though the trees around her did not move. The water rippled, shining with a faint golden glow. Mama Lady smiled softly. "The river has accepted your offering," she said. "The spirit is at peace." Tears filled Amara's eyes. "Is it really over?" she asked. The old woman nodded. "Yes, child. You have done what your father could not. The spirit wanted to be remembered, and you have remembered." They sat by the riverbank for a while, watching the water flow calmly. Amara could feel a strange warmth in her chest, not fear, but relief. It was as if a heavy stone that had been sitting on her heart for years had finally lifted. She looked at the glowing water and whispered again, "Thank you." As the sun climbed higher, they packed their things and began to walk back to the village. The birds started singing again, and the air smelled fresh, like after rain. Mama Lady walked beside her quietly, tapping her walking stick on the ground. "Child," she said after a moment, "you must never forget to honor the river each year. The bond between you and the water is not broken. It is made right." Amara nodded. "I will never forget," she promised. That night, something remarkable happened. For the first time in many months, Amara slept peacefully. There were no dreams of the strange man by the river. No whispers calling her name. Only silence and calm. When she woke up the next morning, she felt lighter than ever before. Her mother noticed it immediately. "You look different," she said. Amara smiled. "I feel different," she replied. The villagers soon noticed changes, too. The river, which had been cloudy and rough for weeks, began to flow gently again. Fishermen who had stopped going to the water returned with baskets full of fish. Women washed their clothes and laughed as they worked, no longer afraid of strange movements in the water. "Amara has made peace with the river," people said. "The spirit is happy again." Amara became known as the girl who calmed the river. Children followed her whenever she went to fetch water. "Tell us how you did it," they would shout. She only smiled and said, "I spoke to the river with truth in my heart." As days passed, she made it a habit to visit the river every week. She didn't bring gifts all the time, only herself, to sit quietly, listen, and watch the water flow. It made her feel at peace, connected to something greater than herself. One afternoon, as she sat there watching the river glisten under the sun, a familiar warm breeze brushed her face again. For a brief moment, she saw a faint shimmer on the surface, a tall figure smiling at her. It was the same man from her dreams, but this time, his eyes were gentle and his face was calm. "Thank you," she heard his voice whisper softly in the wind. Amara smiled. She wasn't afraid anymore. She stood up, bowed her head slightly to the water, and whispered, "You are welcome." Then she walked home, her heart full of peace. From that day onward, every year on the same morning, Amara returned to the river with a basket of honey, fruits, and white flowers, just as Mama Lady had taught her. She would sit by the bank, offer her gifts, and whisper a short prayer for peace. Many years later, when Mama Lady passed away, Amara continued the tradition. She became the one people came to for advice whenever strange things happened near the river. She would listen patiently, then say softly, "The river remembers kindness. Show it love, and it will protect you." And so the river, once feared, became a friend to the village. Children played by its banks, women sang as they fetched water, and the men thanked it before every fishing trip. Amara's strange dreams never returned. But sometimes, when the moon was full and the air was still, she would stand by the river and hear a soft humming, the same song Mama Lady once sang, carried gently by the wind. She would smile, knowing it was the river's way of saying, "Peace." That night long ago, when she offered the fruits and flowers, had changed everything. It was the night she learned that forgiveness could calm even the most restless spirits, and that peace, once found, could last forever. The river glowed softly under the moonlight, and Amara whispered, "I will never forget." Then she turned and walked home, her heart light, her spirit free. The end. Amara grew into a woman of wisdom, calmness, and grace. The years passed gently, like the river she once feared, and her life became a story that every villager knew by heart. She no longer saw the river as a place of fear, but as a friend, a teacher, and a reminder that peace could come even from the deepest troubles. When she was younger, she had run from the strange dreams and whispers that haunted her nights. Now, she welcomed the silence that filled her evenings. The air around her home always felt fresh, and people said the river protected her. Some even believed the spirit that once followed her now watched over her as a guardian. Amara lived near the same riverbank where her story began. The small house she built stood among tall trees, with a garden full of flowers that glowed in the morning sun. She would sit on her porch every dawn, watching the mist rise from the water. Children often passed by on their way to fetch water, waving and shouting her name. One day, as she sat watching the rippling water, an idea came to her, one that made her heart beat with excitement. "The river taught me peace," she thought. Now I must teach others the same. She decided to build a small school near the river. It would be a place where children could learn not only to read and write, but also to understand the land, the water, and the spirit of nature. Many villagers helped her. Some brought wood, others brought clay, and the children carried baskets of sand. Even the elders who once feared the river joined her, saying, "If Amara builds here, then the place must be blessed." After weeks of hard work, the school stood proudly by the riverbank, simple but beautiful. Its walls were made of red earth, its roof covered in palm leaves, and its windows open to let the breeze from the river flow through. Amara painted the front wall with white patterns shaped like waves and flowers. "This place will be full of knowledge and peace," she said with a smile. When the school opened, children came from all around the village. They sat on wooden benches as Amara stood before them with her gentle smile. "Before we learn words," she said, "we must learn respect. Respect for each other, and for the land that feeds us." The children listened quietly. Some of them looked out toward the river, watching how it sparkled in the sunlight. Amara told them stories about the river, how it carried life, how it listened when people spoke with truth, and how it could bring calm to the heart. But she never told them about her spirit dreams. That story, she felt, belonged to the river and herself. Every morning, before lessons began, she led the children to the riverbank. They would throw small flowers into the water and say, "Thank you." It became a daily tradition, a moment of peace before the day started. The villagers soon joined in. They said that ever since the school opened, the river had grown clearer and the crops greener. Years passed, and Amara became known not only as the girl who calmed the river, but also as the teacher of peace. People came from other villages to visit her. They asked for her advice, her blessings, and her stories. Amara never turned anyone away. She would always offer them water from the river, saying softly, "Drink with respect, and it will bless you." One afternoon, as the sun set over the horizon, a group of travelers stopped by her home. They had heard about the wise woman who lived by the shining river. "We came to see if the stories were true," one of them said. Amara smiled. "The river speaks for itself," she replied. They followed her to the riverbank, where the water glowed softly in the golden light. The travelers knelt to drink, and when they did, one of them whispered, "The water feels alive." Amara nodded. "Because it remembers kindness," she said. That night, she sat by the river again, the same spot where she had once made her offering so many years ago. She looked at the stars and thought about Mama Lady, the old herbalist who had guided her when she was young. She wished Mama Lady could see the peace that now filled the village. "You were right," she whispered. "The river remembers." As the moon rose, Amara heard a soft humming in the distance, the same song Mama Lady used to sing. The melody floated across the water like a gentle wind. It made Amara close her eyes and smile. She felt that Mama Lady and the river spirit were both there, watching her. The next morning, she went to the school early. The children were already waiting. "Good morning, Teacher Amara," they shouted. She laughed softly. "Good morning, my children," she said. "Today, we will learn something new, how to listen to silence." The children looked puzzled, but they obeyed. Amara told them to close their eyes and listen, not to the birds, not to the wind, but to their hearts. "When your heart is quiet," she said, "you can hear the truth of the world." After a few minutes, she asked, "What did you hear?" One little boy raised his hand. "I heard the river," he said. "It said thank you." Amara's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled. "Yes," she whispered, "it always does." That evening, as she watched the children play by the water, she realized how much had changed since the days of fear and dreams. The river that once frightened the villagers had become their friend. People fetched water without fear. They bathed, fished, and washed their clothes while singing. Amara often sat under the big tree near the river, her favorite place. Sometimes, she would see young women come to the river to pray or leave small gifts of flowers. It made her heart happy to see that they remembered what she had taught, respect and gratitude. When visitors asked her what the secret to peace was, she always gave the same answer: kindness. Kindness to the earth, to the water, and to one another. As the years went by, her hair turned silver, but her eyes stayed bright and calm. She still taught at the school, still visited the river, still smiled when the breeze brushed her face. Even in her old age, She walked with the same quiet strength that had guided her since that morning she made peace with the water. One night, as she sat by the river under the stars, she whispered softly, "I am thankful." The river rippled gently in reply. It was as if the spirit she once feared was now a part of her, not haunting but guarding. The villagers said that the night she passed away, the river shone brighter than ever before. The water glowed with a soft silver light, and the air felt peaceful. The next morning, the children found a single white flower floating in the middle of the river. They said it was Amara's final gift. From that day on, the villagers called the place Amara's River. Every year, they gathered there to tell her story and teach their children to respect the land and the spirits. The school still stood by the riverbank, filled with laughter and learning. And whenever the wind blew gently across the water, people smiled and said, "Amara is with us." Her story became a song that mothers sang to their children, a song about forgiveness, peace, and the power of kindness. Amara's spirit, and the rivers, were finally free. The end.